Hi guys, it's Tab from Shine Bright Design, and this is another tutorial as part of Inktober. So this is episode 4 for Inktober, and if you guys are not familiar, I'm going to be doing series this year, and I'm not going to be doing the whole month because I don't have the time to, but as part of the month, I'm only using markers through all my tutorials for October. So normal mediums like pencils and that will resume from November. So guys, in this tutorial I'm using complete Chameleon markers, and this is my second attempt, and from what I can see and what I can tell you from experience is that the more you use Chameleon markers and the more you get practice out of them, the more you'll easily use them. They are something that you need to really practice and get a grip on. It's not something like pencils or paints, you know. It's not, you have to really practice with them and understand how they work and kind of get your grip on the whole timing mechanism, because everything is really about timing with Chameleon markers. Now you don't have to use the Chameleon markers the way that they're made for example the gradient technology, where you have to load it up with the clear pigment and use time to indicate how long or how big you want that gradient to go. It's not, you don't have to use it that way. The ink itself is really lovely, really smooth, and blends out really nicely. And you can see that later on and throughout the video how it blends on paper. Obviously, like with larger areas such as backgrounds, markers don't really look that great sometimes because they can become patchy and blotchy, so the color isn't as smooth and blended. But the Chameleon markers do a really great job when it comes to background. It might be the formula, I'm not quite sure, but they just blend really nicely. So in terms of the color palette, the palette is nice for their first launch. They have 52 colors at the moment. I'm hoping that they will extend their color palette because I feel like there are missing colors in this piece, and the more colors the better everything will look anyway. There are some colors that are a bit stand out in the palette of the set, but you know, over time hopefully they will consider adding more colors. So as any type of marker, when you apply a wet marker onto a dry surface, it will leave a very crisp edge. So as you can see now, I'm using a lighter color to soften out the dark blue that I placed down. And obviously the more I go in with a certain color, such as the light blue, the more saturated that area becomes, which is another way you can cause or create a gradient effect. But the way that you create this gradient technology with the marker is very nice. The nudes are really nice as well. I think for the first set that they have, it's a really nice color palette for nudes and skin tones. Obviously with the skin tones, you can only create a variety of skin tones. You probably couldn't create anything really pale, but hopefully in time they'll create colors for that. Now I love creating blush on the cheeks, and I usually do that with pencil and put like a pink or purple around the eyes. I was able to do the same type of effect with a Chameleon marker, and that's where I use the Chameleon marker tech, where it blends out, and you can blend out on top of existing colors. So you could put that pink on top of the skin color as you see now, and it's still effective. I think it's really nice, and it's giving you the opportunity to layer on top of color. And as you can see here, I create the gradient with one type of orange, and then I go on top with another type of orange, and it gives it more dimension and it adds layers to the color. But I really like how I've done the Jaffas and the candy corns. I think that's a really nice effect, and especially the way I've done the Jaffas and how I've colored them. The way I did that, it was a combination of flat texture markers and a bit of the Chameleon markers, and honestly it's just developing layers over layers and just working and blending things out. You'll see in my tutorial if you see this video, so hopefully you can follow along. So I used the grey to create shadow on the candy corn. And you'll see as well I use grey to create shadow along the face as well. And I feel the grey that I'm placing down on the candy corns just gives it a bit of something without being too harsh or too strong. It's just very subtle. And that's what I like about markers. You can slowly like layer colours on top of each other. And when you're layering colours, it's not as strong, it's very light, but it adds such dimension. So I am liking how everything is progressing so far. I love how I've done the eyelashes and the hair. It's one of my favorite parts, like hair and eyes and face. And at the moment, as you can see, I'm not using the Chameleon markers the way they're made for with the gradient look. You can use it as markers on its own, and it's really nice. I think the pigment is really smooth, really blended. And even if you just use it, if you buy it, you don't have to use it for the blending purpose. You could use it just for the marker itself, because the marker itself is still really nice. I believe if Chameleon markers really get out there and people start loving the markers, not only for the toning effect or the gradient effect, but also for the quality of the ink, I could imagine that this formula could really compete with Copic markers just because of their blendability. It's really all about Copic marker just developing their color palette, you know. At the moment, Chameleon markers are really looking at extending their products and getting into the pencil industry and other type of innovations for the Chameleon, gradient pens. They've started developing color tops for it, but I think instead of looking at the products, they should really focus on extending the color palette as well, just to like compete with Copic marker. But as you can see with the wings right now, I'm not using the Chameleon markers the way that they're made for. I'm actually using them just as markers, and using them just as markers is just as nice. They really compete alongside Copic markers and any other marker if you're using them normally as well. So yes, they do have a point of sale, which is their tech, which is a gradient technology that they designed for, but that's not their only point of sale. The quality of the ink itself is really nice as well. Obviously the length of the marker is a bit strange, but the length is only there because of the gradient fill. So if you don't want to use the marker as the gradient fill, yes, it is extending the length. But when you're using the marker with the gradient filler, the marker does become shorter because you remove it anyway, like you can see on the screen. It is only when you're using the marker itself that the marker does feel a bit longer. So here again, I'm attempting to create these cupcake foils without doing the gradient, and it's not that bad, but it is again where I comment that Chameleon markers do need to consider extending their color palette. And then I attempted to blend and soften everything out with using a lighter color and using the gradient effect of the Chameleon markers. And it did turn out really nice, but if they did extend the color palette, that harsh grey would have been softened out a little bit more. And this is one of my scary points. So I thought I made a big mistake adding that grey onto the face to create shadow. I thought I was giving her a beard at one point. I was like, oh my god, I gave this character a beard. She looks like a man. Oh my god, what am I going to do? But I'm someone who I think that every problem that I come across, it's not the end of the world, and I can definitely fix it. So what I did was I went on with skin tones and, you know, pushed it a bit back, and as you can see now, that grey really becomes more of a shadow rather than a beard. So, you know, my feedback is, whenever you come across these points where you think you've messed up, don't think like that. Just see it as a problem that you need to solve, and, you know, there are many ways that you can solve it. You just gotta look at it outside the box, and, you know, the answer will come to you. So with the Chameleon markers, yes, I do think there are colors missing. With this teal color that I created, that I started using the gradient effect on for the cupcakes, I felt like I needed another color that was lighter than this, and currently they don't have a light teal or anything to make a lighter teal, but using the gradient effect, I was able to create a blended out look. And then I used a light blue on top of that, and as you can see now, the light blue is extremely pale, almost unnoticeable, but I did it because I wanted to make things feel more complete, and I was hoping there would be a little bit of a blue subtle shadow or a little subtle blue look in the background, but currently looking at it now, it just looks like it's white, so I don't know what's going on there. So here I'm going in with some Posca pen. I love my Posca pen. If you guys don't watch my tutorials, you know I use them religiously when using highlights. I thought it was really cute how I did this spider as well. It was very sweet. It wasn't too crazy, but as you can tell from the background is very blended, and it is because the ink. But guys, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you will consider doing the tutorial, and if you do, I would love to see it. Just tag me on Instagram. If you have any questions or comments, comment below. Press that subscribe button, like the video if you enjoyed this, and if you want to support me via Patreon, you can follow the links below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.